And I was facing the captain of the opposing team, Eric Torn. Yeah, he's about EM level. And this game turned to be quite tense, you know. I didn't really expect it because I definitely thought I'm a big favorite in this game, not only because of Elo, but also my rating is much higher. Yeah, that's basically the same what I said, but I'm very good with the white color. Yeah, so recently I won so many games with white. That's why I was pretty confident things are gonna go well. Anyway, here's my Saturday's game. I play e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, the Italian game. I'm gonna reveal you a small secret. When you don't want to prepare much, you just play the Italian game. I know it so well. I played it for like 30 years. I'm sometimes quite fed up with the Italian and Real Lopez structures, but yeah, I'm a natural when it comes to playing these. So bishop c5 is one of the main moves here. Black plays knight f6, invites to play knight g5, the two knights defense, knight g5, d5, he takes on d5, etc. I say no. d3. My opponent plays bishop e7, the Hungarian variation, which I have a very pleasant memories from. Yeah, so I have played some nice, notable games in the Hungarian defense. It's slightly passive, but it's a safer line because black is about to play d6 and he doesn't want to be worried because of the bishop g5 ideas. So I play a castle, and since black is thinking about some ideas like d5 and knight e5, I play rook e1 and make sure that this continuation is off the table. Because if he does this, as you can see, the pawn on e5 is up for grabs for nothing. So black cannot really do that. He plays d6. And one of the most important principles of the Italian game in Real Lopez is always, if you can, preserve the light square bishop, especially against the knight trade. So as soon as black locks the center, knight a5 is a positional threat. So you have to deal with this. And if you have to deal with this, why don't you grab space advantage while doing so? So a4 is naturally the most played move here in this position. I mean, black here has a number of choices. He can play knight a5, bishop a2, c5, then retreat, knight c6, bishop e6, h6, b5. It's always slightly worse because of the weakening of the d5 square. Now instead my opponent played something more aggressive. He played king h8. The idea is to play knight g8, f5, and, try to be really scary at the king side. Maybe f4, g5, g4, and something nasty is happening at the king side. And now I think it's really important. I might be wrong though, but I think it's really important to be precise. Because I remember that one of the key ideas, if the knight goes away from g8, he weakens the control of the d5 square. So I want to be ready to play knight c3, knight e5. However, if I start with knight c3, what about bishop g4? What about bishop h5? And knight e4 becomes a problem. I mean, I don't have c3 because the knight stands on c3. If I play g4, is this not looking really dangerous to you? It certainly is to me. Right, so that's why I don't want to test it. And alright, maybe there's something like bishop e3 and I take care of the d4 square, but there's something I just don't like about this position. So that's why here we are going to start with the move h3. I mean, it's not like bishop g4 really is a big threat because I can always play c3, but it's a nice waiting move. So it's like essentially deja vu from the previous game. Sometimes you need to know when is the right moment to include a waiting move like h6 in the previous game, so that your opponent has to make a concession, a committal move, and the move something like h3 is useful to you in most of the scenarios. My opponent played knight g8. Now I play knight c3. There's no bishop g4 anymore. Now I play knight e5. And this is where some cosmic lines start to appear. And I had a vague memory because the last time I played the Hungarian variation at a competitive level was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's just not a very popular line. I love it for white, but I have a very little practice. And I kind of remembered that there was this idea that knight f6 immediately is a mistake. It's very normal move, but it's a mistake. Why? Look, check this out. You play knight g5, threading with a fork on f7, which by the way is literally impossible to defend. So you play knight e5, hitting the bishop, the knight, and there's the shocker, knight h7. I mean, if you play king h7, queen h5, bishop d5, goodbye. And queen h5 is such a major threat, and the rook on f8 is under attack. So actually the engine says the best move is knight f6 and g6. So all of this has been played before, but the thing is, it's just terrible for black. Knight e4, bishop f4, you can't take on f4, queen d4, white is up a pawn on black's position is just terrible. So this is a known mistake. And then it was one Bundesliga game when my opponent, right, and then my opponent in one Bundesliga game played f takes, d takes, knight f6. I think it was a game against Marcin Tasbir, a Polish grandmaster. The Hungarian port, yeah. And in the game, I played knight g5 because I did not understand what's the difference. F5 pawn on d3 pawn. Again, the same idea. Knight f6, bishop f6, and knight f7. And check this out. Knight e5, knight h7. I had a feeling I'm missing something. I mean, not in this game, but in this aforementioned Bundesliga game. Guess what the opponent uncorked here? Rook f4. I mean, it just makes no sense whatsoever. Rook f4? I mean, the knight on h7 is under attack. The knight on d5 is under attack. What? And the point is, he prepares to meet queen h5 with rook h4. Let that sink in. Right? Alright, okay, you're thinking, wait, but it's still not clear, right? What if I take the piece? Rook c4. You're like, wait, just a second. What? Just a second. What if I play g3? And this is what I played in this game against Marcin Tasbir. What about g3? The rook is under attack. Queen e8. What? So again, I can't really take nothing. I can't take the rook. Knight f4 is going to be a move. I can't take on d5. Rook takes on c4 is a move. Oh, and by the way, my knight on h7 is trapped. And yeah, in the game, I took with the queen. Take with the bishop, I think it's... I don't remember what was after take with the bishop. There were some problems. I took with the queen. Right? He played knight e4 with some fork ideas. Bishop f4. And now after c6, black is reaching the following position. And probably just winning. So I'm not gonna really sit into the details here, but he has two very powerful bishops. I have a couple of pawns for those bishops, but I think it's just, you know, just losing. I mean, strategically, this is very close to losing. Because two bishops, they always rock and roll the rook. Unbelievable. So I kind of remember this. I remember this idea that what was the difference of including f takes, d takes, knight f6 or knight f6 immediately? It's this access to rook f4. So yeah, my opponent took, of course, take it, knight f6, maybe anticipating I'm gonna play knight g5, but listen, I'm not born yesterday. I already know this stuff. Now the question is what to do next. I'm definitely out of the book. I'll tell you, I'm definitely out of the book. I don't know what to play here, but what I do know is that engines in these positions, they in general really like the space advantage. So what do? I play a5. Just in case, you know, because a5 also takes away black the possibility to play a5 himself, so I grab the space myself. I'm very flexible with the ideas. And after the game, I checked, there was a very high-level game of Fabi Caruana against Alexander Grishuk, where black played a6. I can play b4. The point is knight e5, e takes on d5, knight b4 traps the knight on b4 because of your pawn on a6, so it's amazing. And then black does something like bishop e6, c3, bishop g8, bishop b3, and white is slightly better. I mean, white has space. Black's attack at the king side is non-existent. I mean, there's no attack, and I have more space at the queen side, slightly better pieces, a very nice outpost on d5. If you take on d5, I take with the e-pawn, which is something I'm going to discuss shortly. So I think it's a great position, and one of the main reasons why this line is not really so great for black. I mean, at the pro level at least. So, I play a5, and my opponent took on d5, and I think, wait, this is not right. And again, I was quite lucky, because you know what? Last year, I was playing in Toronto in Canadian Transnational Championships against Alexander Reprinsev, a senior player, and it was a different line, but I played bishop d5. And that's where I know from that bishop d5 here is a mistake. Do you know the refutation? Because it feels really nice. You want to play a6, you want to create some problems. Black just plays knight a5. You know? And when I receive this, what? I mean, knight a5, rook a5, c6. How about that? I mean, the queen on d8 hits the rook on a5, takes on d5, and black is just better because of two bishops. You know, this is how I knew. I knew, of course, that I cannot take on d5. So I took with the pawn, as intended. I mean, I want to take on d5 with the pawn anyway, but I mean, this bishop d5 brought some not very nice memories. I mean, I won that aforementioned game, but it was quite something. So I was expecting something like knight b4, c3, knight a6, b4, shut the knight out of the game. He played knight b8. And now, yeah, this was quite unforgivable, to be honest. Because I wanted to play bishop d3. And I was thinking, if he plays bishop f5, I'm simply trading. I'm playing c4, I'm playing b4, bishop e3, knight e2, knight e4. Black's position is just awful because I control a lot of space at the queen side. Black has done nothing at the king side yet, and he has simply worse pieces. The bishop on e7 is not really so great. This f-file, semi-open f-file for black does nothing really. So I was thinking, okay, this is really great, right? I mean, bishop d3, I should play this. And then I noticed, wait a second, he has c6. And I'm thinking, my bishop was just standing on c4, and now I have retreated. And I thought if I play c4, c takes, the pawn on d5 becomes weakness. Not so clear. So I stopped to calculate. You know what I missed? Knight a5. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see this from afar. The point is, black is toast. Yeah, I mean, there's no defense. h6, bishop h6, adios amigos. Yeah, I mean, that was really silly that I missed this. But, you know, I found a different move, different idea. I play bishop e3, which is a very normal move, because now I'm better ready for c6, because the bishop still protects it. And if he plays something like a6, yeah, I was thinking I have ideas like bishop d3, knight e7, and rook a4. Now, because of this pawn on a5, my rook won't be lifted to the king side, and maybe even after rook b4, I cause some problems with the pawn on b7. I mean, why not? Looks really nice. So you don't always have to bring your rooks in the game, rook e1, rook d1, and just give them open fast. You can do it also a4, a5, rook a4. Quite unusual, but it works. My opponent played knight e7, allowing me to play a6. Of course I did. I played a6, creating multiple weaknesses in his position. If he plays b6, bishop b5, knight f6, c4, his position is just dead because the queen is deadlocked. Bishop f5, rook a3, b4, maybe bring the knight on c6. And if he trades it, again, the same story. He has multiple Lascaux weaknesses, a bad bishop. I'm definitely better here. If he plays c6, I take on c6, I play b3. Again, he has multiple weaknesses. Very nice Najdorf-like position. So he decided to play knight b6. I play bishop b5, taking care of these squares. B takes on a6. Now the first big decision. Should I take on a6 or should I not take on a6? Well, I'm thinking, okay, I probably should, you know. Takes. He's going to play queen c8, hit my rook here. He wants to play c6. And I'm probably going to retreat somewhere. He plays c6. I'm going to take it and play something like b3. And I estimate this position is definitely better for white. Definitely. Why is this? I have less pawn islands. 2 pawn islands versus his 3. He has a bad bishop. He can't play d5, e4 because those pawns will be hanging. Actually, d5 just hangs the pawn on e5. The pawn on a7 is a major weakness. So I have no weaknesses. He has. But the thing I'm not really sure, and this is a very often a topic at a professional level, is this enough? Is this enough? When I'm looking at this, I'm like, maybe not. And then I noticed another idea. How about I play bishop c6? And after rook b8, b3. And suddenly, black's position is completely tied. I mean, he has no legal moves, basically. Because if he moves with the bishop on f5, I take the pawn on a6, and I have even a better position. Bishop d7, bishop b7, I trade the bishop, play c4, take on a6. Same problems for black. If he removes the knight, what about bishop a7? Checkmate to the rook. So how is he even actually supposed to play? And my idea, if he does nothing, is to play c4, c5, knight e5, and go for a potential kingside attack, or maybe go knight c4. And look at this monster on c6. So the c4, c5 idea was looking really nice. And that's why I was really tempted to go here, because it's so much difficult for black to play this compared to that position where I would take the pawn on h6. But to be honest, I was also considering some defensive ideas like bishop d7, that my opponent might actually sacrifice the exchange. Right, so take it, and the pawn on d5 is under attack, and I calculate I can take it, and he takes it, and I take it. And I came to the conclusion that probably it's not enough for black. But I was not like entirely sure. Should I accept this exchange? Or after bishop d7, should I play something positional like rook a6? Take on c6, keep this pawn as a monster. Maybe play something like queen a1 and hit the pawn on a7. But first, my opponent needs to make the decision to sacrifice the exchange. So I didn't really bother to think about it too much. First, make a move. Right, then I'm going to think about it. Should I accept exchange or not? So he decided to protect it. I play b3. He plays e4. I guess the only move, otherwise he's just dead, basically. He has no active moves. And now the critical moment. And oh my lord, I saw here so many nice variations. So initially I'm thinking, definitely 92. Absolutely 92. Why? Because I'm hitting the pawn. How do you protect it? Bishop f5, I take the pawn on a6, and I just collect everything on the queen side. So he probably is going to go here, right? And I'm thinking, if I defend the rook, what's he going to do? Knight e4 is still a threat. He's going to go here. I'm thinking, what about knight e4? Bishop e1. What about bishop g5? Ooh, you know, you start to get really excited. The queen is checkmated. Okay, I see, of course, he can play bishop f2 check, intermezzo. Knight f2, I can resign queen g5. What about I play king h2? The queen is still checkmated. Rook f6, probably I just take bishop f6 and knight f2. But there's bishop g4, which I honestly did not see in the game. He plays bishop g4, he plays queen c8 with some madness position. I'm down in exchange, but it's very unclear. But I decided not to play this because of rook f6. And I'm looking at this. And I'm not really sure where's the follow-up. And then I'm, again, trying to evaluate the consequences after bishop f6. And I really, really want to sacrifice the exchange. I really do. Bishop a1, queen a1. The threat is bishop g5. The threat is bishop d4. And you know what? I switched on after the game the engine. Engine says this is really good for white, but not because of the reasons you think. White continues a positional dominance. Check this out. This line, is it human to you? It is not to me. Look at this. Bishop d7, c4. Knight on b6 is bad. So there's all kinds of bishop d4, knight g5, knight e6 ideas. Bishop d4, rook e3, rook knight g3. And somehow white is so much better. Why exactly? I don't understand. I mean, I'm officially down in exchange. And engine gives here like huge advantage to white. This is not how I play. But maybe the problem is I'm willing to sacrifice a pawn for the initiative, but mentally I'm not ready to give up the exchange. You know? So I have still room to grow. So I saw this idea, but the problem was I don't understand how to evaluate it. And then of course I'm thinking, what else is there? I play knight e4. Okay, so I play knight e4, the human move, but knight e2 was so tempting to play. And I'm thinking he's going to play something like bishop g5, you know, bishop g5, I'm going to play queen h5, bishop e3, f takes on e3, rook f1, and because of his multiple weaknesses, probably I'm close to winning, strategically. So, he plays bishop f6. And I'm like, what did I do? Because suddenly he has bishop e5, queen h4. I'm sorry. Yeah, bishop e5, queen h4, bishop h3, rook f3 ideas. And this is not clear, right? And I'm burning time like there's no tomorrow. I'm trying to figure out what's the most precise continuation. And I even see the right idea. I see I have to play rook a2. I see this. The point is I'm preparing to play knight e6 and queen g4. Not a very difficult idea. He goes here. I play knight e6. I play d takes e6. I play queen g4. But somehow I convince myself that this is not very clear. I mean, I do see I have a monster pawn on e6, but I see also his threats of d4 and queen f2, and maybe if I drop this pawn, if he blocks it on e7, blah, 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 blah. It's not going to be so clear. So what I should have done is find one more move. And he can just resign. The rook on a2 suddenly defends the pawn on f2. Bishop g5, e7. White wins. I mean, these pawns at the queen side don't matter at all. They're scattered. What matters is this pawn on e6, backed by the bishop, e7. Black's position is just collapsing. Yeah, I was very unhappy when I found this out after the game, especially since I saw this line. So I went for something else. I went for bishop a4, which I knew it's weird. I knew it's wrong. But at least it simplifies the position. I'm about to play knight c6, and I'm about to force him to do some trades. For example, if he takes it, because of his multiple weaknesses in the position, and I have an idea like bishop d2, rook e3, rook g3, c4, bishop c3, This king is exposed. The pawn on a7 is weak. So I was really happy to play this position in a time trouble because I had something like 20, 15 minutes for about 20 moves. So I need to adjust my strategy. I need to make lighter choices and not to play overly complicated position in a time scramble. So time management is a very important aspect of competitive chess. So my opponent, yeah, by the way, I saw also c5, very nice tricky move. A d takes on c6, knight e5 is way too complex. Knight c6, the same position, I keep the better position. He played here, queen h4, defending the pawn. I hit it with bishop d2. Yeah, the knight on b6 is out of the game. That's why I thought he has to take on a4 and suffer. I hit the pawn again. I lift the rook to g3, which was according to my plan. You see now this pawn on f2 no longer is under attack because the bishop is closing the f-file. Here, so I save my bishop, and here. So, when I reached this position, I thought, I'm never gonna let my advantage slip again. I was absolutely sure this is close to strategically winning, although I'm down a pawn. I mean, how come? Why is this? Because I have a really nice harmony of the pieces. His king set attack is going nowhere, and I'm about to simply collect his entire queen side. But the issue is the time trouble. So he played some nice ideas. Queen h5, hitting the pawn on d5. I have to protect it. He played rook f7, a nice idea. Preparing to play knight e7, knight f5. I took on a6, knight c8, and now I start to be a bit nervous. So I should have played probably something like queen d2, knight e7. Now I play bishop d7, stopping knight f5. If he goes here, I have bishop e6. And this is essentially the idea I had in the game. But the main difference is my queen is not jumping under a fork. Yeah, so this queen d2 idea was very human because not only I go away from the fork, I also deal with all kinds of queen e2 ideas and some desperate counterattack. For some reason, I did not find this move. So I played king h2, you know, just in case, bring the king closer to the safety, but unfortunately, it's a waste of time. He played another smart move, h6, stopping any rook g5 ideas, which I was not really sure. Should I include or not? And now, look at this. Yeah, I played another bad move, rook a1. I just wanted to pass the ball at the court side to my opponent. The right move was b4. b4, knight e7, bishop d7, bishop f5, and can you guess the next move? I mean, this requires some imagination. Somehow, the bishop from c6 makes it to d1 to bother the queen on h5. I mean, just wow, yeah? I mean, I didn't see this, and black's position is collapsing. Yeah, with the pawn on b3, yeah, that's why b4. But it's not only that's why b4, because there's another idea. There's another idea why I need b4, which will be revealed later. So I'm going to show you how the game unfolded. I played rook a1, which is a bad move. I play bishop d7, bishop f5. So this is move 31, and I'm getting something like 4 minutes on the clock, and the game is a mess. I mean, I slightly lost control. And I'm thinking, bishop e6, I'm thinking, if he goes here, I go here. If he goes here, I trade queens. And this is a game I can control, right? I have the better pieces, I have the better bishop, I have the better rook, maybe g4, king g3, h4, h5, g5, etc. These are weaknesses, this is a weakness, better bishop, better rook. So I thought this is really nice. Really nice idea. And then he plays rook f6, which kind of threw me off because I completely missed this move. And when you miss a move in a time scramble, it has unfortunately side effects. So he's threatening to take on e6 and play knight f5. How should I play? And yeah, so here, I'm actually, look at this, I'm calculating these lines. I'm looking at rook a7. I'm looking at, I mean, d takes knight c6 looks like something I don't want to test it, right? There's a very good chance I will be down a whole rook. So I'm looking at rook c7, and I even came up with an idea to sacrifice the queen. And I had a look at this position for like 1 minute or 2 minutes while my clock is ticking, and I just did not believe that it can be played. And guess what? This is the top choice of Stockfish. Unbelievable. I mean, I'm down a queen for a bishop. What threats really? But I guess the threat is rook g7, e7. Or rook g7, rook h7. And after the only move, queen f5. Somehow, this is equal. I mean, initially engine gives some advantage to white, and then it says this position is equal. This is nuts. I don't play like this. So I even saw the idea. I was really amazed because, I mean, after game I wanted to check if my crazy idea works. Actually, it was the top idea of the engine. So instead I had to make a move. I played rook g4. Since knight f5 is a big threat, I thought if I have to go with exchange, I better do it under my terms. And this is where, Perrin, you said, that's why b4. This is where you needed b4. Why? Because my opponent could have played c5. Right here. And only then take the exchange. The point is, if I take on c6, he takes on e6, oh, sorry, with the bishop, of course, collects the piece. He missed it. He took on g4. I have to take with the bishop. He plays queen g6. I take rook a7. And now it was so obvious you have to play c5. But I mean, in defense of my opponent, I mean, he was in time scramble, like down under 30 seconds or so. I thought there is never going to be a more obvious scenario than to play c5 right here because the pawn is under attack, and if you take it, there's a fork. So the point is, after c5, this would have been about equal position. Takes, 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 queen f5. I don't really think I'm risking anything because exchange for a pawn, I'm hitting the pawn here, queen c2, and most likely it's just a draw. My king is really safe, the bishop on e3 stands very nice. So, but it would have been a major miss anyway. From the strategically winning position, blunder it in a time scramble to a draw. Maybe I would have found a way to continue, I'm not really sure, but not very likely I would have won the game. But he missed it. He played h5, which was a terrible move, because now I get to play bishop d7, and now c5 does not work. I guess he was only expecting me to play bishop e6, so that then he can play c5. And after bishop d7, there's no c5 anymore. En passant, take on c6, the bishop on d7 protects the pawn. And that's it. So his queenside is falling apart, even though he's up in exchange. And the rest was basically, yeah, a piece of cake. Yeah. So rook f3, nice idea, of course, going for the mate idea, but yeah, this is not checkers. I don't have to take the rook. So I simply play rook e7. And yeah, and here the most precise move, the 40th move, was just to play b4. Just play b4. b4, c5, push those pawns forward. I have beautifully positioned pieces. The pawn on e4 doesn't matter at all. Yeah, but it's the trickiest 40th move. I decided to take with the rook because I was not sure if taking with the queen in the time scramble is going to be the right choice. So that's why I took with the rook, and after rook b8, and suddenly had some practical issues how to win this game. And why I'm saying it's winning, I have 3 pawns for the exchange. So it's material advantage for white. And he has some weaknesses to the king side. So I managed to reorganize my pieces to keep the pawn alive. Yeah, so he can't take on b3. He played here. I defend the pawn, and now I start to rebuild my position. I didn't want to trade the rooks. I was not sure how exactly to position my position to the king side, so that's why I spent here quite some time figure out where needs to stand what and how exactly I'm supposed to push those pawns forward. Not so easy to understand. But slowly and carefully I did it. Queen e5 was a big mistake, and finally I got to start another wave of attacks. And there was a very cute idea. He plays if he plays queen b2, I play bishop d4, queen b3, and rook e8 check. He can't take it. The queen is under attack, the rook is under attack, and this is black's position is just falling apart. Everything falls apart, all the pawns. Maybe there's even a mate. Not really sure. So this exchange doesn't matter at all. And that's why he played what he played, rook a8, rook e6, hitting the queen and the rook, queen e4, the threat is bishop d4, rook e7, he went here, rook f4 is rook e8 check, he loses big time material. Yeah, I just collected the pawn. Yeah, this was a very interesting moment, by the way. I thought I can immediately force his resignation with bishop g7. Queen g7 would be a mate. And if he takes with a king g7, I play rook e7, I win the queen. But somehow, you know, I was looking at this position, I thought it's probably going to take me like another 20-30 minutes to win this game. Of course, I'm winning. It's too many pawns for those two rooks versus the queen, so I decided not to go here. That's why I simply took the pawn on d6, went back, and finally, after g5, final attempt for him to do something, I play rook h6, rook h8, bishop d6, his position just falls apart, and that's why finally he resigned. So after the game, I was quite unhappy. I was quite unhappy that I had such a nice, great position after the opening. I was very proud of my opening idea, right? Once again, I was very proud that I came up with this sequence of sacrificing the pawn to go for a complete domination. And I was feeling that I missed something direct. You know, I had a feeling that I missed some direct win with knight e4, bishop g5, etc. But the engine actually said I did everything correctly. Okay, bishop a4 maybe is not really an accurate move. And until this moment, it was more or less a perfect game. Yeah, rook a6 here, complete domination. All I needed to do is make accurate moves and pick up b4. So b4, knight goes here, 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 and remember this idea of bishop a4, bishop d1, and also the pawn on b4 stops any c5 ideas, because I just take it. I mean, if the rook goes to a7, after c5, I just take on c5 and that's it. Yeah, so some understanding was eluding me, but still overall, it was a pretty nice game.